United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that millions facing hunger will pay the price of Russia's decision to withdraw from the Black Sea grain deal. He further added that a related pact between the United Nations and Moscow to help facilitate Russia's grain and fertilizer exports has also been terminated. On Monday, United Nations Security Council members condemned Russia's decision and expressed concerns that price rises will put food out of reach, particularly in poorer nations. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba said that the halt puts many in Africa and Asia at risk of facing hunger. UK's illegal migration bill is poised to become a law after members of the upper house defeated a string of challenges to the government's bill. The bill cracks down on migrants arriving in boats. This will mean anyone arriving by boats will be refused the right to apply for asylum in the United Kingdom. Members had proposed amendments relating to modern slavery protections and limits on how long child migrants can be detained, but these amendments were voted down. After exiting from the landmark grain deal, Kremlin has issued a warning over the future of grain exports from Ukraine. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that if a future deal is formalized without Russia, then Moscow would not be responsible for the risks that arise in that situation. Russia released footage showing it has opened road traffic on one lane of the Crimean bridge after it was hit by explosions. The bridge is important as it connects Crimea to mainland Russia. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin had blamed Ukraine for the attack. Putin called the act cruel and senseless, as the bridge had not been used for military transportation for a long time. He said his defense ministry is preparing proposals for a response. Ukraine has not officially claimed responsibility, but media reports said Ukrainian security services had deployed maritime drones. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Russia is weaponizing food with Black Sea grain deal exit, reasoning that it will drive up food prices for the world's hungry. White House said it will continue to work with other countries to enable both Russian and Ukrainian grains to reach the rest of the world. It called for the pact to be restored as quickly as possible. Latin American leaders called for the conclusion of free trade deal talks with the European at the EU-CELAC summit or the CELAC summit in Brussels. More than 50 leaders gathered at the summit. The European Union pledged more investments for Latin America and the Caribbean as part of a revamp of its international relations, prompted by Russia's war in Ukraine and growing wariness of China. The EU wants to unlock trade deals struck with Mexico in 2018 and with the Mercosur bloc of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay in 2019. But officials have played down expectations of any breakthroughs during the summit. The finance ministers of the G20 countries gathered in the western Indian state of Gujarat on Tuesday. The talks wrapped up without a joint statement. Indian officials hosting the meeting blamed it on differences between major powers over the war in Ukraine. This was the second day of the third finance meeting of the bloc. The ministers hoped to push for agreements on debt restructuring for vulnerable countries. They also looked at mitigating global debt risks, global minimum taxation, and reforms on multilateral development banks. Ministers from many countries chose to skip the meeting, which added to the slow progress on the issue. Anti-government protests against the contested Supreme Court bill is taking place in Israel's army headquarters located in Tel Aviv. Thousands of protesters marched and blocked the highways in a run-up to Parliament's vote on judicial reform, which protesters are saying would dismantle democracy. A New Delhi court has granted bail for 2 days to the chief of India's wrestling body, who is accused of sexually harassing female workers. Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, who is also a lawmaker from the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, has denied any such wrongdoings. "26 oppositions parties have assembled together in India's state of Bengaluru to pitch against the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party for upcoming general elections. This alliance will be known as INDIA, which means the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. The name was decided after a 2-day mega meeting of all the opposition parties. The United Nations Command has announced that a United States national entered North Korea during a tour of the border and is believed to be detained. The United Nations Command said the U.S. national crossed the DMZ into North Korea without authorization. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at Jeddah's Al Salam Palace. Saudi Arabia is Erdogan's first stop in a 3-day Gulf tour that includes Qatar and the UAE. He was seen in a Turkish-made electric vehicle that the Saudi Crown Prince was driving. The two leaders signed memorandums of understanding on energy, direct investments and defense. Saudi Arabia signed 2 contracts with Turkish defense firm Baykar to buy drones to bolster their defense and manufacturing capabilities. The countries also signed a defense cooperation plan. Scientists are stumped after a giant metal cylinder washed up on Green Head Beach in Western Australia, baffling locals and even triggering speculations online. These speculations have led people to believe that this mysterious cylinder could be a part of Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-3 lunar mission that was launched last week. The Australian Space Agency believes that the cylinder is likely to have fallen from a foreign space launch vehicle. U.S. climate envoy John Kerry is on a 4-day visit to China. He met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi. Kerry told Wang Yi he hoped China and United States could use climate cooperation to redefine their diplomatic relationship and tackle global warming. Earlier, Kerry met with his counterpart Xi Zhenhua for nearly 12 hours at the Beijing hotel on Monday. Kerry's visit marks the resumption of top-level climate diplomacy between the 2 biggest greenhouse gas emitters in the world. The United Nations has warned that the world should prepare for another round of intense heat wave amid soaring temperatures that has gripped Europe and North America. The heat advisor at the United Nations World Meteorological Organization expressed that heatwave-like events will continue to grow in intensity. Thousands of liters of diesel were released in the Tennessee River as a tugboat near the O'Neill Bridge in Florence sank into the river. Police authorities are saying over 11,000 litres of fuel has spilled into the water because of this incident. Local authorities have started extensive cleanup operations to minimize the environmental damage. Blazes have burned 1.2 million hectares of forest in the Canadian province of British Columbia so far this year. This is far above the 10-year average of 76,000 hectares. Authorities have requested help from Canadian Armed Forces and an additional 1,000 international firefighters. This comes after a second firefighter died battling Canada's wildfires. In British Columbia, some 2,000 firefighters, including firefighters from the United States and Mexico, are battling 373 fires. Lack of rain in recent months has left much of the province parched. Officials say it is an unprecedented level of drought for this early in the year. Now, in a bid to diversify their economies and address climate change, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed have agreed to discuss potential UAE investments in semiconductor and battery plants in Japan. They also plan to collaborate on green fuel production, medicine and space projects. Japan Prime Minister's UAE tour follows a clean energy cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, focusing on ammonia and electric vehicle battery development. Japan aims to serve as a bridge between nations, emphasizing individual needs in transitioning to renewables. In a major win for labor advocates, the California Supreme Court ruled today that Uber drivers can sue the company in court even though they signed an arbitration agreement. The ruling could have implications for other companies that require employees to sign arbitration agreements. The Uber ruling is a major victory for labor advocates who have argued that arbitration agreements make it difficult for workers to hold companies accountable for workplace violations. The ruling could also have implications for other companies that require employees to sign arbitration agreements. Uber has said that it is considering its options, including appealing the ruling. Microsoft and Activision Blizzard are in talks to extend their $69 billion acquisition contract, which is set to expire on Wednesday. The extension aims to overcome remaining regulatory hurdles in the UK and ensure the deal's success. The Competition and Markets Authority has raised antitrust concerns, but negotiations continue. Last week, Microsoft secured an agreement to keep Call of Duty on Sony's PlayStation, appeasing critics. An appeals court in the United States rejected the Federal Trade Commission's request to pause the acquisition. Investors now see the deal's completion as likely, as Activision's shares closed just below the deal price of $93.2. An unboxed original first-generation iPhone model has been sold for a price of $158,000. The bidding for this rare 4GB model of the iPhone started at $10,000, but the value kept on increasing due to the high demand. Notably, the phone was launched at only $499 back in 2007. And since then, the price has increased by over 300 times. Sealed iPhones in the past have been auctioned for thousands of dollars, with the previous record set at $63,000 US. Helsinki-based 18 Wheels has unveiled an 18-wheel all-terrain vehicle that glides over rocks and slides over trunks, which sometimes even cars fail to do. Their prototype is based on a very unique suspension. Each wheel is in a suspension system that initiates movement powered by an electric motor. The result is a much smoother ride in comparison to a four-wheel all-terrain vehicle. The vehicle has been developed in Finland. Britain's royal swan census is being held for the first time under King Charles III's reign. It will take place in the West London on the River Thames. The annual 5-day census, known as swan upping, is conducted every year in the third week of July to tally swans and in particular their cygnet offspring. Several boatloads of swan uppers clad in red, white or blue jerseys count swans on the river. After a disastrous year due to bird flu, the royals are hopeful the Thames swan population will not be as affected this year. A jumper worn by late Princess Diana is headed for auction with an estimated price of $80,000. The jumper depicts a black sheep and was designed by the knitwear brand Warm and Wonderful. Diana first wore the sweater in June 1981. The black sheep among the white ones is believed to match with then Prince Charles, who was playing polo. After it was damaged on the wrists, it was sent back for fixing. A few months later, Diana received a replacement which she was wearing in 1983. The original one was, however, found 40 years later in a box which is now being auctioned. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.